Hello guys and welcome to another Michi's Esports Diaries, and today we need to talk about a serious topic. We need to talk about the issues we do have on Le Mans Ultimate regarding esports, regarding competitiveness, comparability of competitiveness, leaderboards, qualifications to series and so on. And I'm already sorry if this video gets a little too long. I try to make it short. But we need to talk about a couple of things. And I really do have an issue in the way Le Mans Ultimate is giving organizations the tools right now to run various and multiple competitions. And the thing that got me into this video was the Logitech G Challenge competition that took place on Le Mans Ultimate for the last couple of months and weeks, with the McLaren 720S LMGT3 around various tracks. And there was some leaderboard that you needed be in the top 2 in order to make it to the main event on each of these rounds. I'm not going to go too much into detail like how it actually worked, but I come to the point straight away. The way this competition has been conducted and has been done on Le Mans Ultimate has led to the system being exploited, and people would say cheating. I'll call it exploit, or being in breach with the technical regulations and the terms and conditions from LMU. And that really got me into that position where, like, I need to flag this. I need to speak about this because it really hurts me in a certain way when looking at the activities, but also when looking at how things are done. We're talking once again about cause and effect. And disclaimer, I really want to make sure I'm not going to pinpoint to any person or to anyone being displayed in this video doing this for malicious intent, for cheating, or I do not want to call out the guys. They might be still seen here in this video, but I'm not finger pointing at them. I'm finger pointing at Le Mans Ultimate, designing a system or not designing a system that makes this possible, and also some sort of a feasible way to do in the first place. So let's head into the activities and let's talk about it. Before we dive into the activities though, please, if you have anything, any questions, any concern, any feedback, or even an opinion on what we're going to see here, put it down in the comments area below. I really want this discussion to go on and see what the community thinks about all this. And once again, disclaimer, I do not want to point fingers at certain drivers. I'm not going to mention names because I want to talk about the issue in the first place and not the people that make use of it. We're looking at the Logitech G Challenge, and how this works is you do a race in that specific series, and the fastest lap time that you do in the race, not in qualifying, in the race, is going to be put on this leaderboard. I have an example of a leaderboard here. I did this race with the Peugeot in the 100 minutes of Bahrain, and I have put purple in the race, fastest lap in the race. It was enough to put me second here on the board, but I have not raced against the other two people, and they could have done their laps in a very different way. They could be running away in P1 at the very most, while I have to use up my perfect tire conditions in the first 3 or 4 laps to create myself a bit of a gap, to overtake people, to be in clean air, stuff like that. So I do think it is a big issue the way this is designed. We're talking about fastest race laps, not fastest qualifying laps. And to me, it's really bad that Le Mans Ultimate does not give the opportunity to have like a hot lap leaderboard running. Anyway, what this has led to, and we're going to talk about the Logitech G Challenge here for a bit as we're going into the following clip. What this has led to is we're looking at these 3 hypercar GT3s here, and we're talking specifically about the car in the middle, the blue one that is being in P2. They are just starting the lap towards in Le Mans, and you see the car from behind here in the first chicane running across the inside part of the chicane, trying to get into the slipstream of the car ahead. Now his lap's obviously been invalidated, but that is not the cause of his actions. The cause of his actions is what we see here. The first car given a draft, the second car benefiting from the draft, and additionally getting bump drafted from the car behind. And as we look onto the speeds, 284, 285, 86, they go up to 293, even 94 a little bit. And usually the car would do around 282, 283, maybe 284 when being a lumber alone on the track. Not just the first straight they do this, they also cut the second chicane, well, the illegal cars cut the second chicane to give another bump draft to the car that is still in P1 or that is still on a valid lap. So they have teamed up to be with 2 or 3 people in that race, trying to push one guy so far ahead that in fact he does get a lap time that is literally physically unbeatable by anyone who's attempting this in, let's say, full consent and full within the full terms of conditions and the code of conduct on Le Mans Ultimate. So you can decide for yourself whether you call this exploiting or cheating. Personally, I'm not going to name it either way. I'll leave that completely for you, but I think the pictures speak for themselves. And what this has led to in the end, and I think this is where the problem actually is when we're talking about the system. If we're having a look into the result file of that specific race, qualifying, one guy has put a 3-minute 59.0 to put the car on pole. Now the car that has been pushed is the number 2 guy, who did a 4 minutes 0.1 in the qualifying session. And now as we look into the race, the guy that has been pushed did a 3-minute 57.3. And this is the issue. So he tops the leaderboard. I'm pretty sure that these guys have been disqualified from the event, maybe also from other rounds. But just the fact that LMU and Logitech have set up this competition in this particular way, has the effect that we're seeing stuff like that. And I think this is pretty bad. It is also from an organizer's point of view not well thought through. You know, as you could say on social media, haters gonna hate. You could say people trying to go for a competitive advantage will do so no matter what. But this is only one of multiple things, because we can also dive into the topic of track limits. And track limits is something that is usually being conducted and obeyed of as per the game. But again, here we see flaws in the system that is either being exploited or used for oneself or against somebody. We're going to dive into this. But guys, before we dive into this, let me know your opinion on the Logitech G Challenge situation. Put it down in the comments area below. What is your potential way to fix stuff like that? Let me also know. And then, of course, if you do appreciate this video, then please give it a thumbs up, subscribe us on the YouTube channel, ring the bell for more videos, and let's talk about track limits now. We all know that Le Mans Ultimate handles track limits in an automatic way. You leave the track, the system checks whether you've gained a timing advantage, whether it is a lasting advantage, or whether you gave up that lasting advantage in a short period after you committed the cut. And based on that, either gives you an invalidated lap time, penalty points, and when you exceed penalty points, you receive a drive-through penalty. Right. This is also something that we have seen in the Logitech G Challenge section of this video. Obviously, the other guys have completely sacrificed their race because they surely had multiple drive-through penalties to serve. Rating goes down, the entire system being abused in the way it was. Anyway, we're talking about track limits, and we're going to have a look at this streamer, he has been in the 6 hours of Paul Ricard, and there was a way that track limits would not have been triggered if you, let's be honest, excessively cut this hairpin, go wide, and you see on the top right, just as he comes back to the track limit calculation turns green, disappears, and it is still a valid lap. Now, I have not checked the entirety of the race. I do remember back in the days that this team, not just this driver, but another driver has committed to that multiple times. It was said that it was to make Studio 397 aware of the issue. Now, you could argue whether one time doing this is fine and it's flagging enough, or doing it all the time is really necessary. But the thing is, at the end of the day, it's once again the way Le Mans Ultimate has designed its track limits, has designed its governance about it. Now you could say, well, it's fine if everyone can do the same, it's going to be the same for everyone. We love the same for everyone in the esports perspective, but it's not the same for everyone. And here we come into live footage from myself. So I have done the same thing to an extent. We're looking at clips here from the Multiclass Masters Online Championship, where we raced in Portimao, turn 1. Here I go a little wide, get the calculation, stays green, keep going. The lap after, I turn into turn 1, I run a bit wide, car ahead runs also wide, calculation comes up, turns green again. And just 2 laps later, you can guess what happens. We turn in, we both go wide, and I get the greens and everyone goes ahead. So, the interesting part about this one is it was the car ahead that protested me to go off 5 consecutive times in turn 1 and gaining a lasting advantage. I received a penalty for it. And don't get me wrong, I do not disagree with the penalty, because effectively I have abused track limits the same way. The problem to me was the other guy that did exactly the same, just because I didn't protest it, and also honestly because stewards just looked at me rather than also looking at him. He did not receive a penalty, which is wrong, I think, in comparison to penalizing me, which as a subject I consider as being right. So in that way, I had to suffer from a penalty because someone else reported this. However, the problem to me is, I think if the system was designed differently, for instance, iRacing, it gives you an X every time you leave the track. At a certain amount of X's, no matter whether it was a gaining advantage, lasting advantage, no lasting advantage, you receive a penalty. Maybe iRacing is actually a way, as much as I do hate the iRacing way of doing things, with the X's, stuff like that, with the 4X, it is a penalty no matter what. So if someone is bullying you off the track all the time, you receive that penalty too. That has other flaws, but it could be effectively maybe a thing that we're looking into. And so it is, again, cause and effect. It is probably a well-intended idea to have track limits governed by the system. I think that is also in the code of conduct. Track limits being governed by the system. So you could ask even, why did I get a penalty? Again, I agree getting a penalty, but I disagree with only me getting it, right? Anyway, that is the way it is as of right now. Let me also know down in the comments area below. And then obviously we come back to the very last thing, which is the most obvious ones. If we're looking into how we have to do qualifying for the VMS Pro Series, so we have to hand in a hot stint, we have to hand in telemetry in order to receive the entrance into the top split. Now they have checked all those laps with DuckDB. I do know for a fact that DuckDB does not cover everything in the sporting regulations. You know, they want to have weather, specific grips, specific track limits that are set to strict, non-strict. Probably the strict track limits could still be retrieved, as in the lap time counting in the end or counting not, according to DuckDB. But you know, there are some variables that are probably not being 100% trackable, and yet they have to use this or Motec. And Motec does probably even consider even less variables that you can set in the game for maybe gaining an advantage. We're talking about Railroad, for example, or we're talking about, I don't know. I do not know those DuckDB files that well. All I do know is they do not cover everything that happens in the circumstance. Anyway, that is another limitation. Then we're talking about the currently ongoing Mercedes-AMG Virtual Championship qualifier, which I'm taking part in as well. We do hot laps on a server that runs for 10 hours. However, we have not a direct leaderboard to access to. It needs to be done by the organization. They pull an XML file from that 10-hour session and then manually type in everyone's laps and everyone who's done laps and publish it on a web page. It's a semi-automated process. Actually, it's a manual process, not even semi-automated. And Le Mans Ultimate is now on the market for 2.5 years, and we do not even have a leaderboard functionality, a qualifying leaderboard functionality. The entire leaderboard that I also showed you back from that hypercar race here is not the lap time is not fetched by qualifying. Qualifying would for me be the circumstance which is probably the most legit to take hot laps from, not even fastest laps in the race, because technically if I had 100 tires available in the race, I could come in and make a pit stop every third or fourth lap, get like 15 hot lap attempts, put a mega lap time on the board, but I pay with like 40% of DR in order to achieve this, right? So we're once again talking about cause and effect. And this has led me to the point where like we need those changes. We need a little bit more governance, maybe an extension in the track limits, and the track limits finding and the track limits handling. We also need like a very specific hosted server for qualifyings for leaderboards. And also, like, you know, if the Logitech G Challenge, it could also be a qualifying leaderboard as it used to be in the past on R Factor 2 when it was World Fastest Gamer and stuff. Yes, it needed a third-party plugin or a third-party web page to assist, but is it so hard to do? Anyway, I'd be interested in your opinion on it, and I really, really would love to know what you think about this. So put it down in the comments area below, and yeah, let me know. Guys, I say thank you very much for watching. Please have a thumbs up on the video if you do appreciate the content, and then let's enjoy Le Mans Ultimate for what it is, though, because it is still a great sim. So let's keep playing, let's keep pushing the guys for improvement. Till then, see you, bye bye.